Hey guys, it's been a moment, hasn't it? I know I haven't been very persistent with making videos, nor have I been up to date with what even goes on anymore. But honestly, I've just been having a lot go on, so I probably won't be as consistent with making videos that much at this point. To be honest with you, I might just entail these little rants just talking about, like, whatever. But the reason why I wanted to make this video was just something that I saw a while ago that really pissed me off. And to get an understanding of why I was during this situation, I'll give you a quick rundown so far. But basically what's been happening lately is one of my friends, Sir Arksky, had recently gotten into a drama with some kid named Elijah. The whole situation is by itself a massive mess, and I somehow managed, despite not being active as much, got dragged into this drama by Elijah. But basically what happened was that I heard someone trying to make false allegations about Arksky over a stream, trying to say that he was a pedo in a zoo.
And you know what I just realized? Arksky sent me Rule 34 of 2D from Yo Gabba Gabba.
Now, the person that's making this claim is 20 years old, and the kid that she's calling that is 16 years old. You see how weird that sounds already? Now, for her to make such a claim, I was pretty curious. I wanted to dig deep into why she thought that was true. She said that Arksky allegedly sent Yo Gabba Gabba NSFW to her in her DMs or so. But she would never specify if he had actually sent it on Discord to her DMs or someplace else. 3 minutes later, I essentially joined the stream to ask Heather for more information regarding this allegation.
It was SBTC who showed up.
No, Arksky actually flat out did that.
Who did he send it to is my question.
Me! He sent it to me!
Like,
And not to mention,
okay,
yeah, like he sent it to me on DMs, and let me explain this. Tootie is 11 and a cat dragon, so that makes him not only a pedophile, but a zoophile as well.
Oh.
Yes. That makes me him a zoophile.
Okay, I'm gonna Google up if no. Just gonna Google it up if
I'm gonna look it up.
it means
in which she would either ignore me or completely just not say anything. This seemed to have continued for at least 30 minutes into the stream until eventually I got heated for not getting response. So after my little confrontation with Heather and all that and whatnot, Heather starts taking it out on the 9-year-old despite her being the person who insinuated these claims to begin with. And then eventually later on that stream, she ends up trying to throw that kid under the bus by calling him a manipulator and a liar, saying that he ended up damaging her reputation. This fucking moron, instead of teaching what that kid did was wrong, or for the most part, apologizing and taking accountability for what she said, she starts yelling at the 9-year-old, and then after that stream, would say that she would beat that kid up.
Yeah, like
What
grow
the fuck?
grow 2 pairs so I can kick you in one of them.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Honestly, do you honestly think I could kick him in the balls?
yeah.
Yes.
Now, I wish I could show you more about my little argument with Heather and her taking it out on that kid, but the person who made the stream had ended up closing their account a few days ago, so I wasn't able to get an entire VOD of all that, but I feel like all the clips I've gotten so far have been decently accurate. But the key factor in all this is that Heather literally could care less if that kid simply misunderstood and only assumed it was Arksky behind it. She only took it at face value to use as ammunition, but when it ended up backfiring, she took it out on the 9-year-old who, let alone, shouldn't be getting themselves involved in shit like that. Do take into account that Heather literally talks about drama regarding predators around these kids, and talks about people sending Rule 34 to people and their friends, who are mostly kids that are 9 to 13 years old. That in itself is already bizarre. This whole situation became quite clear-cut to me and quite easy to discern that Heather was a massive two-faced cunt who does not give a shit about others but only herself, and how her reputation will look for the other people who are possibly kids that look up to her. She never really cared about whether these kids were probably endangered by potential predators. She only cared about what things she could say about someone before someone like me came along to shut her down. You try to argue that you act like your age, but from the time that I've met you and seen how you act around children, I have a really hard time believing that. When the pressure for the false allegations on Arksky got overwhelming to the point where you'd fall, you'd love to float down on the autism butterfly just to ignore what you were called out for. because you know what you said was just flat out wrong. You would endlessly partake and continue in the harassment of this kid, and were apparently the first member to join in the group against him, when he was a kid who shouldn't have been involved in that situation in the first place. You are 20 years old and you act very immature when you try to handle this situation. You're not only just dumb, you're also a fucking snake. The entire purpose for my confrontation with Heather was that when she screwed up evidence that was potentially life-ruining, she didn't take accountability, or at least try to teach the kid what he did was wrong. Those two simple solutions would have worked out, and would have led that kid on the right track. But she ends up calling this kid a manipulator, and was worried about how people will see her now after she's realized that she's blind-fired and made false allegations about someone, whether if it's just her or her friends. The big thing about these communities that Heather partakes in is that they are filled with kids. Kids who really just didn't know any better and would end up doing some dumb shit. And these kids just generally lack the critical thinking skills to be even involved in this drama anyway. People like Heather, who happen to be close friends with them, influence their behavior based on how she handles or talks about a said situation. And since these kids don't exactly know how to act within these situations, they're more likely to ask someone like Heather for advice on what to do. And considering how she acts around them, I fear that's quite some bad mojo. Apparently, at some point later in the future, Heather had apparently apologized to Arksky about what she said about him, except that we can't actually find the apology, or her actually taking accountability for what she did. Even when I asked Arksky if he knew, he didn't even remember when she apparently apologized, but he remembered it was just fake and not actually sincere. But if Heather actually apologized to Arksky, or at least taken accountability, she would have at least DM'd him, or for the most part, said it publicly on YouTube correcting her fuck up. But we don't see that anywhere, unless someone wanted to dig through hours and hours of live streams just to find it, and even if you wanted to at this time, the channel that it was posted on had recently closed their account. So, how exactly is this considered an apology? How is that taking accountability for what you said about Arksky, who you accused him of false allegations to your audience? And where you said at those claims about him multiple times until the day I confronted you. You didn't even try to at least give a damn about what you said, despite you being 20 years old. But let's face it, you clearly don't like Arksky, and you haven't for a while. You were hoping that anything about him came into light, whether if it was true or not. That's why you joined multiple streams with those kids and agreed with whatever they were saying, even when it was false. To say that she wasn't malicious about it is an understatement. The apology really sells it, especially since she clearly didn't want to apologize to Arksky. She's taken accountability for apparently bullying people in the past, but I guess it's not the same for Arksky, or the 9-year-old she bullied constantly for days on end. She never even explained why she even did that to Arksky, because, you know, Arksky sucks, I guess. It's very strange that you discuss drama like that around kids who are roughly a whole decade younger than you, that relates to grooming around them. You'd think that you would be talking to people who would be in your age range about shit like that, but she doesn't. I'm just gonna throw this out there right now. I would not be surprised if she was exposed for being a predator. It really sounds far-fetched to say that, trust me. But the way she acts around them and what she talks around them is just super weird.